The question that everybody has been trying to figure out is it over? Is it over for crypto? Is it over for altcoins? What comes next over the coming weeks and months? And it's really important to try and figure this out, of course, because if you are holding altcoins, particularly any of the ones that we like to talk about, like Aero, Qubic, Jasmy, any of the others, we definitely need to make sure that we're understanding where this could be going, because particularly with these types of coins, they do run a lot off of narrative and momentum. And so if we start to lose some of that narrative and momentum, things can get really crazy really fast. So I wanted to go over a whole bunch of things discussing what could potentially be coming in the crypto market, and then we'll go from there. So first off, let's take a look at the altcoin season indicator. What we can see here, unfortunately, looking very reminiscent of what we saw kind of in the November to January timeframe. We saw a really quick peak up, not really as quick as what we saw in November to January. It's actually much more stable and a slow grind, which actually had me feeling pretty bullish that we'd be able to sustain into an alt season for a little while, but that of course did not happen at all. And so what we're looking for now is what's next, right? Can we find some level of stabilization? You could see we found some level here in December, January, February. You also could see we were here in kind of the July, August time frame as well. Can we hold this place and then start to take a run back to the upside, or are we going to be heading back into Bitcoin season? I think a lot of what happens over the next couple of weeks is going to depend on what happens here. And I'm going to go and show you all of this. But before we do that, I want to just give you a quick update of where we're looking on the crypto bubbles. We are actually seeing a little bit of a bounce today, which is really good to see. It has been an absolutely brutal week and even a more brutal month. Really, really tough for altcoins. And so the fact that we are seeing here on the daily a nice little bounce is a good thing. And this actually is going to potentially help us with this kind of, with our argument that we might be seeing a little bit of a bounce coming, for altcoin season and the altcoin season index. Now, the other thing I want to show you is just a quick overview on the market. We can see that the market is in the weak and even many of them in oversold for the RSI. So the market average RSI is definitely looking weak. And you can see here, we are in fear, actually getting very, very close to extreme fear. Anything below 20 is extreme fear. And so there is that possibility that we actually do get in there, which honestly wouldn't be super surprising given all the crazy things that have happened. Extreme fear maybe feels a little bit warranted, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at. Liquidation levels we'll come back to in a second. That's something that we're going to be taking a look at in quite a bit more detail. You can see here, this is one of the things that I personally have found slightly concerning, is generally when there's a change of trend in the market, there's a very, very high level of volume. And we can see here that volume has been well over $100 billion over the past several days, where before that, I mean, it was like 30, 40, maybe even like on a good day is getting up to 50 or 60 billion. We've been well above that. And so generally, since we've seen this at a top, it does mean that we could be seeing a change of trend. And we are seeing that the market is over, or we might even be going into a much deeper pullback. So there are definitely some worrying signs. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything is okay and we're only going to continue to go up. We might, but we just really don't know. We are late in the market. We know that we're late in the market. Generally, this is when there is the most risk, right? But when there's also the most risk, that can also come with the most reward because of the risk. Now, again, nobody is guaranteed anything in the crypto market. We'll just have to see. From a structural level, though, things are still looking okay. You can see that we had this 950 billion support here. It would be ideal to kind of get back up above the $1 trillion range. You could see actually recently, we did see a little bit of a wick below, and then we did a little bit of a bounce. We had a wick up, getting rejected at that $1 trillion range, and now we are sitting a little bit back here. Ideally, we'd like to see some level of stabilization. What we've seen right now is not comfy at all, right? Because we obviously saw a major volatile day with this massive liquidation event. We then saw a kind of a whiplash back up with kind of the reactionary push after this massive liquidation event. And then we kind of saw the push back down, looking to capture or recapture a lot of the liquidity over this kind of reactionary push. So ideally, what we need to see is we need to see something like this, or this, or even this for that matter. We need to see some level of structure developing and forming here in the market. And ideally, Hopefully we can see this kind of maybe in this range, or even in this range would probably be even better. Showing a similar type of structure to what we saw here would be great. You probably can see, I'll draw the lines really quick, but you can see that this was actually a consolidationary structure where we kept continuously seeing lower highs, and then we also continuously were seeing higher lows, and then we saw the breakout from there. So would love to see a similar type of structure from there. It does look like we might be seeing a little bit of a descending trend line coming in here. We'll have to see, if we have, essentially the next couple of days where we just kind of go flat, we will have broken through that. So that's not really anything that has a lot of credence quite yet, but it is something that we will need to be taking a pretty close look at. Now, the next thing that does inspire maybe a little bit of confidence or a little bit of hope for any of our altcoin favorites that we have here is the liquidation map. For those of you that know, the liquidation map is kind of what we really like to take pretty close looks at here. We can see on the daily it's actually about split here. On the 7-day, though, you'll see it's an absolutely massive swing to the upside here. And then on the 30-day, it's still a pretty massive swing to the upside as well. Now, as we have been moving to the upside, we have been starting to take out a little bit of shorts, so that the total number of shorts to be liquidated to the upside is going down slightly, and people are getting slightly more bullish. So, you can see the number of longs to be liquidated is continuing to creep up. So, again, we need to be very, very careful here. There is always that possibility that we see another swing back to the downside. Maybe we hit back and kind of sweep some of the lows that we have seen recently, and we're liquidating, again, billions of dollars. So you have to be very careful. Make sure that you're staying frosty. We have seen this actually, because as I had mentioned in the video a couple days back, when we see a confluence between all three, it generally means we're going to see a move back to the upside. We have seen that move back to the upside, and now we no longer see a confluence, right? Here we actually see 1.66 to the upside, liquidating shorts. And here we actually see 1.69 to the downside, liquidating longs. So potentially we see, again, almost $1 billion, even within like $1,000 swing here, or I guess a little over $1,000 swing. So, we could see, again, another kind of liquidity push down, again, continue to pull liquidations, and then we go back to the upside again. It's hard to say for sure, but you need to be very careful. Hopefully, based on all of the things that we've gone over today, you can see how dangerous it is to be actively trading in this market. Now, I want to go talk about specific coins, things like Aero, things like Kita, things like Onyx Coin, Qubic, all the ones that we have, even Jasmy as well. The reason why I picked all 5 of these in particular to talk about today is because they're all very similar. Now, if you look at something like Qubic, they're very, very narrative driven with the AI narrative. I think they could do very well, and if we see the AI narrative come back in full force, Qubic could see some insane gains. Aerodrome is kind of, at least up until this point, the de facto leader of the Base ecosystem. So if we do see Base do well, then Aerodrome is going to do very well. And of course, there is that very strong narrative behind them. Jasmy, for those of you who know, everybody knows Jasmy. It is the Japanese Bitcoin. It's the only regulated crypto in Japan. It's got a whole bunch of things, but again, this is all narrative based. Onyx Coin, same type of thing. They're ISO 20022 compliant. They have all of this, potential rumors with treasuries and various institutions and things like that. Great. Kita, similar type of thing. They've actually had an unreal throughput test, doing about 10 million transactions per second. That is like more than Visa level type of throughput. Really, really impressive stuff. Now, of course, their launch was very difficult. We actually have seen price come down a decent chunk since then, and that is, of course, less than ideal to see. But what we can see ideally is you can see there's a very, very strong narrative for each of these 5 coins. But each of these 5 coins need the crypto foundation, right? They need it to be stable for them to see that push back to the upside. So I'm going to be watching very, very closely to see if we can get that pushback to the upside from a pure narrative perspective. Now, again, as I have mentioned in previous videos, this, in my opinion, all runs through Bitcoin. We need to see Bitcoin start to have some upward momentum. We actually are seeing Ethereum continue to outperform Bitcoin, which is very, very good news. That is something that is great to see. But we do need Bitcoin continuing to push. We need Bitcoin seeing new all-time highs if we are going to get an alt season type of environment where these types of narratives can really kind of flourish and take off. So that's what I'm going to be watching for very, very closely. So again, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. I did want to keep this one just a little bit shorter today because of course there's so much going on in the crypto market, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to provide a jam-packed video showing you kind of what I am seeing with the potential of the alt season, market and altcoins and all of that type of stuff. So if you did find the information in the video useful, of course, you know what to do. I do really appreciate it. Also, I'd love to hear any comments that you have. What do you think about each of the coins that I've listed? I will be looking to do individual videos on all of them, but I have been a little busy recently and time is tight. So I want to just kind of pack them all together today just to make sure that all of you are getting that, at least, a partial update, maybe not a fully comprehensive update, but at least a partial update on the coin that you're interested in and wanting to learn more about. So again, hopefully you found it all useful. If you did, of course, really appreciate all of the support. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.